Hey, what is up lads, welcome back to our new review, and today we're gonna review a Guilty Gear Strive. Arc System Works have been busy bees over the last few years, becoming the go-to developer if companies are waiting to get their intellectual properties into the fighting genre. This is while also working on their own fighting games, such as Guilty Gear Strive, the latest entry in Arc long-running anime fighter that started back on the Sony PlayStation in 1998. Guilty Gear has never hit the popularity of fighting games like Street Fighter, Tekken or Mortal Kombat, but it has a fan base that keeps the series alive. The developers wanted to change this and bring more people in, especially after new eyes have seen the developers work in Dragon Ball FighterZ, Persona 4 Arena and Granblue Fantasy Versus. To do this, developers felt something had to change, as Guilty Gear is known to be a complex fighting game, and so the developers had a target, which was to make Guilty Gear Strive more understandable and for the less hardcore fighting players, so they would be willing to give it a try. We will not know for a while if they were successful, but it was made this Guilty Gear different from the previous entries, so let's rock and see why. Let us get the story out of the way first. As while these are not most important element of the fighting game, story modes and single modes in general do well to keep the less hardcore fans interested in playing. Story modes in fighters have been improving over the years. The masters of these are NetherRealm Studios with their flashy cutscene-filled stories in the recent Mortal Kombat and Injustice games, blending fun cinematic scenes with the gaming fighting mechanics seamlessly transferring between them. Guilty Gear Strive has a story mode, but there are no interactions with this, no fights, no quick time events, it is literally watching a show. It is even broken down into around 20-minute chapters, offering around 4 hours of Guilty Gear done in the game's engine. Guilty Gear has done this in the past, but it would often be more like a visual novel with animations between sections of dialogue, delivery with small facial or body movements. This time it's a completely fully animated. It does feel a bit strange to have to fight, but it seems the developers wanted to get the story told without having to adapt to bring in gaming elements or fit in pointless fights. One thing coming from watching the story is that I do feel that I understood Guilty Gear and its characters better. If you have never played the series before, then some things will feel a bit lost. Thankfully, there is a database where you can read up information or watch the previous games, stories on the Arc System Works YouTube channel. There is a lot of characters and world building done here. The story is the closing chapter for our hero Soul Bad Guy, and so he and the Gear Maker are central to the story, along with I Know and a couple of others getting a big share of the screen time. Other characters pop in and out, but those mentioned are the true Fortuners. The plot centers around the Gear Maker handing himself over to the President of the United States before the start of the G4 Summit. The Gear Maker wants to bring peace to the world and has a plan to do it while in the safety of a secure room where no one can get in without the President. Of course, this is all over the news, and so certain characters want to get the Gear Maker and his tome for own needs. The story finally becomes an alternative version of something like Olympus Has Fallen White House Down, but set in the world Guilty Gear. The story is rather entertaining enough that I watched it all in one sitting. Taking off single player options, there are not many modes to take part in. There is a mentioned story mode to watch, there is also arcade mode, survival mode, versus mode, for local or CPU play, tutorial mode and mission mode. The latter two are the most important, it teaches players how to play the game. The tutorial is very basic, learning how to move, jump, block and that's all. But the mission mode is where things become much more interesting. Mission mode delves into the deeper mechanics of Guilty Gear Strive. It is broken into 5 groups, with each demonstrating more complexity. Mission mode begins with the topics like throwing, dashing, bursting special moves and some of the Guilty Gear unique mechanics, like Gatling combos. Things begin to get more intense further into the missions as topics like yellow, blue, red and purple Roman cancels, how to look out of hit confirms, frame advantage, wall tech, fuzzy guard and even throwing in much tutorials, which help you in fights against the characters, something often missing from the fighting games. This is one of the better tutorials in a fighting game, and a video demonstration are added to each one to help people follow what needs to be performed. There is no dedicated combo trial mode, but some basic combos are learned with the characters in mission mode, as the game lets some trials done with any fighter. It will be interesting to see if these are updated in future, when new characters are added to the roster, as the developers have mentioned that some downloadable content will add new modes. One of those sounds absolutely brilliant, as it allows users to upload combo tutorials to the internet that people can download. Which means if someone finds a new combo string, this can be shared with the game for the people to attempt it themselves. I cannot wait for this mode. It means I no longer have to scour the internet for the new G1 attack, but until then YouTube is my source of cool combos. Mission mode shows that complexity is still in Guilty Gear Strive. There are plenty of mechanics to learn, but the main core of fighting has been changed thanks to the revamped fighting engine and philosophy, which means goodbye to some of the mechanics we have enjoyed, such as blitz attacks, danger time, instant kill, and dead angel attacks. One of the biggest changes in focus on damage and how it impacts the combos. Strive has tried to move away from remembering long combos for maximum damage. That does not mean combos are dead, not at all, because fancy combos can and will still be performed by the pro gamers, thanks to the mechanics like Roman cancel, but decent damage can still be done by smaller combos. Arc System Works has felt that turning up the damage from the shooter combos keep player engaged, and in a way it does give the feeling that less skilled players are doing something good against another player. The new wall break mechanics also help less experienced players by breaking up the pressure from an opponent. A softened corner pressure can be a bit impact on the outcome of a battle. Guilty Gear Strive prevents the issue by having a wall break after so many hits in a combo that sends the character into a transition to another part of the level, in essence resetting the distance from the two fighters back into the middle of the screen is a neutral stance again. This is a sort of a get out of jail free card, as they no longer have to predict what the opponent is going to do to get out of the corner. Guilty Gear Strive is a tad slower previous games, but fights will be still quick due to high damage, plus the movement in the game is still fast compared to the other fighting games. There is plenty movability available from the high jumps, double jumps and air dashes. The place into the game waiting is players to be aggressive, so much that it rewards for doing so. Hitting an encounter is met with a meaty effect that slows the game down for a quick instance to give time to follow up with the inputs. The developers have made it key that opportunities to attack are made very clear from these slow motion or stun animations, which promotes being aggressive. This is rewarded with the tension meter, a bar that is used from Roman cancels and overdrive special movements, thanks to Super Fighter Supers, to build up faster, but if a player defends far too long, then the meter building is reduced. That is not to say defending is frowned upon. It is instead presented as the best defense in offense, as using Roman cancel is not only for the combo extensions, but can be used to slow opponents' recovery from frame animation, and even get out of the block stun. I found a good use for having full tension meter, as missing an overdrive special that allows with whiffling my opponent would have left me with a 50%, which I could use then to Roman cancel out of get to my save before the opponent applied the punishment for my poorly performed overdrive mode. It was mentioned this still has all been done to help the less serious fighting game players, and yeah, it does help it. In that sense because it gives them some essence of being able to deal some more damage to the other players, without constantly getting perfectly every round. I don't think that design has aimed at making the game fun for any level of play. I mean, in the end, a good player is still going to beat a bad player, especially if they dig deep into the Roman cancel system. But players, no matter their skill level, will feel they are more involved in the battles, and may just want to invest more time, as they feel that might be able to get somewhere in the game community without having been touch of that in every battle. Guilty Gear Strive is a beautiful game to witness in action, with a banging tunes, quality and well thought out mechanics, and netcore is some of the best in the business thanks to acceptable of rollback. Change can often be time to adapt to, and whenever a serious change in mechanics, it can be met with Neoshige feedback from the hardcore fans, because it's not like something before. In all seriousness, what is Guilty Gear Strive should not be sniffed at all. This is still Guilty Gear. And so, there are still crazy mechanics here to learn that the lab rats will discover and abuse in high level play. The thing is that now the game is easier to understand, which is huge positive, as trying to push too much complexity can become a deterrent to the game. This, in turn, makes Guilty Gear Strive such a bloody blast to play. So many matches have been intense due to the push for aggressive combat. This is some of the most fun I have in fighting games since the rebirth of Killer Instinct. Overall, Guilty Gear Strive is a fantastic entry in the series that should be given short, but anyone who will enjoy fighting games or want to get their fingers on some hyperactive one-on-one action with their friends or the online community. Now I'm jumping back online and I just can't get enough of smell of the game.